The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, pierced only by distant stars that twinkled like tiny, cold fires. Among the void, a sleek Imperial scout ship glided silently, its metal hull shining faintly under the distant suns. On board, Commander Ralvek peered at the holographic display, his eyes narrowing. Humanity, the legendary species thought lost for centuries, had been spotted, or so the sensors claimed. "No human signal should exist," muttered Ralvek, his voice low but firm. Around him, his officers shifted uneasily. They had grown up on stories of humanity's supposed extinction. Whole archives of history detailed humanity's self-destruction and disappearance. Yet here was a faint, blinking signal, small but unmistakable. The ship descended toward the origin of the signal, a small blue world, vibrant with green forests and deep oceans. Clouds swirled across the atmosphere, hinting at a climate both rich and alive. Most of the Empire had long given up searching for this planet. It was supposed to be empty. And yet, here it was, thriving, hidden in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Ralvek's heart pounded. He had always believed in the legends, in humanity's cunning, but he never expected to see proof himself. The planet's surface came into view, a series of mountains, rivers, and cities that sparkled with lights even in the dying dusk. Structures unlike any known architecture rose from the ground, elegant and efficient. It was not primitive. It was advanced, organized, alive. "Scan for life forms," Ralvek ordered. The ship's sensors hummed, mapping the planet below. The readings shocked the officers. Tens of millions, maybe hundreds, of thousands of humans moved in structured patterns, building, farming, and communicating. There were no signs of war, no rubble, no evidence of the cataclysms described in the old histories. These humans had survived, and they had flourished. The command room grew tense. Lieutenant Sarek, the tactical officer, glanced at Ralvek. "Sir, their technology, it's not just survival level. Their cities are powered by energy sources we've never catalogued. Some systems look organic." Ralvek leaned closer. "Organic?" Sarek nodded. "It's alive in a way. The cities seem to breathe, respond. They're machines. They adapt." A quiet hum vibrated through the ship as the scanners pulled more data. The Empire prided itself on knowing everything. Every system, every species catalogued. Humanity had been their greatest mystery, the one they assumed lost forever. To discover them alive and thriving was more than unexpected, it was dangerous. "Prepare for contact," Ralvek said, his voice steady, though excitement buzzed under his calm tone. "But remain cautious. Do not underestimate them. History might be wrong, but their survival alone suggests they are clever, resourceful, and possibly deadly." The landing zone was chosen near a sprawling city built into the side of a massive mountain. Its surface shimmered as if the stone itself was part of the city's design. As the scout ship touched down, dust and small rocks scattered, revealing intricate patterns carved into the ground, patterns that seemed almost symbolic. Ralvek and his team stepped onto the planet. The air was clean, crisp, and surprisingly breathable. Birds or bird-like creatures darted across the sky, and the forests hummed with unseen life. But no humans approached immediately. There was caution in the silence, an unspoken wariness. Suddenly, a figure emerged. Tall, strong, and wearing clothing that shimmered in soft hues, the human paused at the edge of the forest. Their eyes glowed faintly, not unnatural, but intelligent, alert. They held no weapon. They only watched. Ralvek raised his hand in greeting, a universal sign among explorers. The human tilted their head, curious, but cautious. "I am called Elian," the figure said in clear, resonant tones. "Why do you come here?" Ralvek swallowed, realizing the significance of this moment. Here was humanity, not broken, not weak, not extinct, but alive. Alive in a way the Empire had never imagined. We thought your kind was gone," he said. We came to see if the legends were true." Elian's eyes narrowed, the calm of the figure giving way to a spark of intensity. "Legends lie, they said softly. We survived. And we are stronger than you can imagine. The tension in the air was thick. The officers behind Ralvek murmured among themselves. The humans were not panicked. They were not hiding. They were confident. Dangerous confidence. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the forest, Ralvek felt the weight of history shift in that instant. Everything the Empire had known about humanity was wrong. They were not extinct. They were not weak. They were impossible. And the Empire had just arrived. The air on the planet was alive with quiet energy, like the forests themselves were watching. Commander Ralvek and his officers followed Elian through the winding paths of the city, their boots crunching softly on the stone-like streets that seemed to pulse underfoot. Every turn revealed more wonders: towers carved from living rock, rivers that glowed faintly in the fading light, and machines that moved as if guided by thought rather than programming. Ralvek could feel the tension in his chest tighten. His entire career had prepared him for first contact, but nothing had prepared him for this. Humans, alive, advanced, and aware. Their history had been thought a cautionary tale, a lesson of what not to do. Yet here they were, thriving quietly in a hidden corner of the galaxy. Elian stopped at a wide plaza, where dozens of humans moved purposefully, yet none seemed surprised by the Imperial visitors. They were not afraid. They were watching. You will not harm this place, Elian said calmly, turning to Ralvek. You may observe, but do not try to take or destroy. We are not the humans your stories told you. Ralvek raised a hand in reassurance. We mean no harm. We only wish to understand, to see how you survived, how you thrived. Elian's gaze was sharp. Curiosity is acceptable. Trespass is not. The Empire's history is long and dangerous. We know of it. Ralvek glanced at his officers. There was unease in their expressions. None had expected humans to remember the Empire's actions so clearly, or to speak with such authority. He realized, suddenly, that these humans were not just survivors, they were masters of their own fate. The plaza opened to a massive building, shaped like a spiral reaching toward the sky. Elian led them inside. The interior was a combination of art and technology, walls flowing seamlessly into machinery that seemed almost alive. Holographic maps hovered in midair, showing star systems, trade routes, and strange energy readings. Sarek stepped forward, unable to hide his fascination. Their technology, it's adaptive. It's almost organic. Yes, Elian said, reading Sarek's thoughts almost before he spoke. Our machines are extensions of our will. They learn, grow, and adjust. We do not control them blindly. We guide them. Ralvek's mind raced. This level of technology was far beyond what the Empire had catalogued. Humans surviving was one thing. Humans advancing, adapting, and surpassing known limits was another entirely. Suddenly, the building's central floor shifted, and a large circular chamber appeared. In the center floated a globe of shimmering light, pulsating with a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. Elian gestured toward it. This is our world's core network, Elian explained. It connects all our cities, our systems, even our energy sources. It listens, responds, and protects. It is the reason we survived when so many thought we were gone. Ralvek stepped closer, mesmerized. The light seemed to reach into him, showing glimpses of human history. Of wars, of struggles, of near extinction, and then of rebirth. Every failure had been a lesson, every loss a guide. Humanity had adapted, learned, and evolved. They had become stronger, wiser, and more resilient than the Empire could have imagined. A sudden alert flashed on Ralvek's scanner. A small fleet of Imperial ships had arrived in orbit, unseen until now. They waited silently, weapons ready, expecting the usual, an unarmed, weak species ripe for conquest. Ralvek's stomach tightened. If they acted recklessly now, they could provoke a war before understanding anything. But the humans below were calm, unfazed. Their confidence was unnerving, almost terrifying. Elian turned to Ralvek again. You see us now. But we are not here to attack. We are here to survive. We are here to continue. The Empire's judgment does not define us. Ralvek nodded slowly, understanding the weight of her words. Humanity was no longer a story, no longer a myth. They were a force, unpredictable, intelligent, and unstoppable in ways the Empire had never prepared for. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, the humans began a silent ritual. Lights pulsed from the buildings, a pattern of energy flowing like veins through the city. It was beautiful, hypnotic, and terrifying all at once. Ralvek felt the weight of history shift again. He realized the Empire's understanding of the universe was limited. They had assumed control, assumed superiority, assumed knowledge. And yet, in front of them, was proof of the impossible. A quiet voice in his mind whispered, a warning, or perhaps a challenge. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity had not only survived, they had evolved. And now, the Empire would see, firsthand, just how impossible they truly were. Ralvek looked at Elian, whose gaze seemed to pierce through him, seeing not just his rank but his doubts, his fears, and his curiosity. The first contact had begun. But it would not be simple. The story of humanity's return was just starting, and the Empire had no idea what they were about to witness. The city below glowed, alive with secrets, strength, and intelligence. Humanity had waited. And now, it was ready. Night had fallen over the human city, but it was far from dark. Thousands of lights pulsed across the streets and buildings, each glow like a heartbeat. Commander Ralvek stood on a balcony with Elian, looking down at the living, breathing city. The air was electric, filled with energy that was both beautiful and unsettling. You must understand, Elian said, her voice soft but firm, we did not survive by chance. We survived because we learned to use the very forces around us. Forces the Empire does not know exist. Ralvek studied her. What forces? He asked, though he already felt the answer would be unlike anything he had ever seen. Elian turned and led him into a smaller chamber beneath the city, a room that seemed ordinary at first, with smooth walls and faint humming. But as she moved closer to the center, the floor began to glow, showing intricate patterns that shifted as if alive. She raised her hands, and the patterns reacted instantly, swirling faster, changing color, forming shapes that resembled entire star systems. This is our energy network, Elian said. It is not powered by machines alone. It is powered by understanding, by focus, by will. Every human here contributes to it. It connects us to the world, to the elements, and to one another. We do not dominate nature. We guide it. Ralvek felt a chill run down his spine. He had expected advanced technology, yes, but this was something entirely different. Humans were not just using machines, they were using the very world itself as an extension of their power. You mean, like magic? Lieutenant Sarek whispered, though quickly covered it with a cough. Elian shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. Not magic. Knowledge. Skill. Adaptation. Humanity learned to survive when everything seemed lost. Our strength comes from understanding, not destruction. But do not mistake our patience for weakness. We are ready for anything. Ralvek's mind raced. He glanced at his officers. Most of them were pale, their hands tightening on their equipment. The humans below were not only alive, they were untouchable in ways they could not yet understand. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Lights in the chamber flickered, then brightened, revealing dozens of human figures moving in synchronized patterns across the city. They were small, but their movements were precise, almost ritualistic, as though each step was a note in a song only they could hear. What is happening? Ralvek asked, awe creeping into his voice. This is a demonstration, Elian said simply. We show you what humanity has become. Watch carefully. Outside, the city seemed to breathe. Lights surged like rivers, connecting buildings, streets, and machines in a pattern that defied explanation. Objects began to move without touch, guided by invisible hands. Energy arcs floated across the city, not violent, but controlled, precise, and purposeful. Every movement was deliberate, every pulse measured. Ralvek felt his breath catch. The humans were not only alive, they were alive with power the Empire had never imagined. Elian placed a hand on his shoulder. We could overwhelm your fleet easily. But we do not wish to fight, yet. The Empire still believes it controls the galaxy. It does not. Not anymore. A sudden alert flashed on Ralvek's wrist communicator. Imperial ships in orbit had detected an anomaly, an energy surge far beyond normal planetary activity. They were tense, ready to fire, but Elian's calm presence seemed to freeze them. Ralvek realized then that this encounter was not just about seeing humans survive. It was about understanding the impossible. Humans had hidden power, intelligence, and unity that no war machine could break. He turned to Elian. Why now? Why reveal yourselves? Elian's eyes were fierce, but sad. Because it is time. The Empire assumes we are gone. They assume weakness. But we are here, and we will no longer hide. Humanity is ready to reclaim its place, not by violence, but by proving we were never weak. By showing the impossible is real. The ground shook again, more violently this time. Ralvek's officers stumbled, gripping railings for support. Through the chamber's windows, he saw massive energy forms rising from the city's core. They twisted and turned, forming shapes that resembled creatures, machines, and stars all at once. The humans orchestrated it all with gestures, murmurs, and focus, like conductors guiding a symphony of raw power. Ralvek realized something terrifying. This was only the beginning. Humanity had not just survived, they had evolved, learning to bend the world, energy, and nature itself to their will. The Empire's weapons, their tactics, their assumptions, none of it mattered against this level of intelligence and control. Prepare a report, Ralvek said, voice low, almost in disbelief. The Empire must know. Humanity is not extinct. Humanity is unstoppable. Elian's eyes softened slightly, almost amused by his reaction. We do not seek war, she said. We seek recognition. And the Empire will soon learn that survival is not enough. The impossible is only the beginning. Outside, the city glowed brighter, alive with untamed yet controlled energy. The humans moved like one entity, connected to each other, to the planet, and to forces beyond the Empire's understanding. Ralvek watched in stunned silence. He knew history was shifting, and that the Empire had just witnessed the return of the species they had long believed gone. The hidden power of humanity was no longer hidden. The Imperial fleet hovered silently above the human city, 100 ships armed with weapons capable of destroying entire planets. Commander Ralvek stood on the bridge of the lead ship, his eyes fixed on the city below. Never in his years of service had he felt so unprepared. Humanity, long thought extinct, was alive, and far beyond anything the Empire had expected. Commander, Lieutenant Sarek said, his voice tight with tension, their energy readings, it's off the charts. I've never seen anything like it. Our weapons might not even scratch them. Ralvek nodded grimly. I can see that. Every assumption we've had about humanity, it's wrong. Dead wrong. He turned to the communications panel and activated the link to Elian. Elian, we need to talk. If we leave now, the Empire will act. They may attack. We need to reach an understanding before it's too late. The reply came instantly, her voice calm but firm. Commander, you are welcome to observe, but do not provoke. Humanity does not fear the Empire, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. You have seen our power. You have seen our city. You know now that your threats mean little. Ralvek swallowed, realizing the weight of her words. Humanity was not just surviving, they were confident, intelligent, and prepared. The Empire had arrived thinking it held the advantage. Now, the advantage belonged entirely to the humans. He glanced at the fleet. Admiral Terran's face was pale, his hands gripping the command console. Sir, Orders from the High Council are clear. They demand we demonstrate force, show superiority. If we hesitate, the humans might gain influence over everything. Ralvek shook his head. We don't understand them yet. Acting rashly could destroy centuries of progress for both sides. This isn't a battle of weapons, it's a battle of perception. If we provoke them, the Empire will pay the price. The city below responded, not with aggression, but with a display of power that was both beautiful and terrifying. Light surged from every building, converging at the city's core, forming an enormous sphere of energy that pulsed like a heartbeat visible across the night sky. Ralvek's breath caught. They're not attacking, Sarek whispered. But that sphere, it's massive. It feels alive. Elian's voice cut through the comms again. Commander Ralvek, the Empire must understand, humanity is not a relic to be catalogued or destroyed. We are proof that survival is not weakness. We are proof that the impossible is real. You may leave with this understanding, or ignore it at your peril. Ralvek's mind raced. The humans were issuing a challenge, not a threat, and it was clear. The Empire could not underestimate them. Not now, not ever. He turned to his officers. Prepare for negotiations. This is no ordinary first contact. Our survival, and perhaps the Empire's reputation, depends on how we respond. No weapons unless absolutely necessary. As they prepared, the city's energy sphere began to expand, stretching toward the sky like a beacon. The humans moved in unison, their gestures controlling the flow of energy, creating patterns that twisted and turned in ways that defied explanation. The Imperial crew watched in silence, unable to look away. Elian continued, her tone calm, almost gentle. The Empire believes it rules the galaxy. It believes it knows every species, every world. Yet here we are, unseen, unbroken, and thriving. We survived your judgment. We learned. We grew. And now, the Empire sees that humanity is more than you imagined. Ralvek's thoughts turned inward. What could the Empire do if they acted with arrogance? Entire fleets might be destroyed. Worlds might fall. Humanity's strength was not just in weapons or technology. It was in unity, intelligence, and adaptability. This was an entirely new kind of power. The Admiral cleared his throat, voice shaking. Commander, if we withdraw, will they let us leave? Ralvek didn't answer immediately. He studied the humans below, moving with grace, control, and purpose. He realized that this was a test, a challenge, not of combat, but of respect, understanding, and restraint. Humanity was not asking for submission. They were asking to be acknowledged. Finally, he spoke. We will honor their challenge. The Empire will observe. We will not provoke. And we will learn. This is history in the making. Elian's response was almost imperceptible, but Ralvek could feel it. Approval. Satisfaction. The humans had issued their challenge, and the Empire had accepted, at least for now. Below, the energy sphere began to contract, the pulse slowing, yet the city remained alive, vibrant, and strong. The display was a message clear to all. Humanity was not extinct, humanity was not weak, and humanity would not bow. As the Imperial fleet maintained position, Ralvek realized something profound. The galaxy had changed in a single night. The Empire, with all its pride and power, had been humbled, not by war, but by the undeniable presence of a species thought gone. The challenge had been issued, and the Empire, for the first time in centuries, knew it might be on the wrong side of history. Ralvek turned to his officers, voice steady but thoughtful. Prepare for continued observation. Humanity is more than we imagined. And if we underestimate them, we may not survive what comes next. In the city below, Elian looked up at the stars, her eyes glowing faintly. She knew the Empire had seen the impossible, and she knew humanity was ready to prove it, again and again, if necessary. Dawn broke over the human city, painting the skies in shades of gold and purple. Commander Ralvek stood on the observation deck of the lead Imperial ship, watching the humans below. They were calm, almost serene, but Ralvek knew better. He had seen enough to understand that this peace was deceptive. Humanity's power was hidden in discipline, intelligence, and precision. "Sir," Lieutenant Sarek said, pointing to the city, "they're preparing something. The energy readings are spiking again. It's massive." Ralvek's jaw tightened. "We must remain patient. Observation first. Any rash move and we could start a war before we understand what we're dealing with." Below, Elian and a group of humans moved in synchronized patterns, drawing energy from the city's core. Machines responded instantly, shifting, bending, and aligning in ways that seemed impossible. Towers rose higher, energy conduits flashed, and arcs of light danced across the sky. The humans were performing a demonstration, but it was also a test of the Empire's resolve and understanding. Ralvek turned to his officers. "They're testing us. Watch carefully. Every movement, every reaction, it matters. The Empire may not be able to strike without consequences." From the fleet, Admiral Terran spoke through comms, his voice edged with worry. "Commander, the High Council is insisting on a display of force. They want to fire on the city to assert dominance. Our calculations say it could fail disastrously." Ralvek's expression was cold and decisive. "We will not fire. Humanity is not a threat to provoke. Their strength is not measured by destruction, but by control, intelligence, and adaptation. We underestimate them at our own risk." As if on cue, the energy from the city surged outward in a spectacular display. Light arcs connected towers, streets, and even the forests beyond the city limits, forming patterns that resembled a map of the stars themselves. The humans moved in harmony with the energy, as if they were part of the flow. Ralvek felt the weight of the moment. This was a species that had survived annihilation, learned from every mistake, and evolved into something the Empire could barely comprehend. Their test was simple. The Empire must recognize humanity's capability without resorting to aggression. Any misstep could lead to catastrophic results. Suddenly, a smaller Imperial ship broke formation, attempting to scan the city more aggressively. Sensors aimed directly at the energy core. Alarms blared across the fleet. "Commander," Sarek shouted, "they're trying to provoke us." Ralvek acted instantly, sending a warning to the rogue ship. "Pull back. Now. You do not understand what you are triggering." The humans reacted instantly. Energy arcs shot upward, forming barriers that shimmered and rippled, deflecting scans and disabling the rogue ship systems without harming the crew. The city below remained calm, yet the power displayed was undeniable. Humanity had neutralized a fleet ship without firing a shot. Ralvek's mind raced. The humans were not reckless. They were strategic, precise, and overwhelmingly powerful. And they had no intention of escalating unnecessarily. The test had been clear. The Empire must respect them or suffer the consequences. Elian's voice came through the comms, calm but firm. "Commander Ralvek, your people test our patience and our abilities. Do you understand now? Humanity does not need to fight to win. We survive, we adapt, and we control. The Empire's assumptions are irrelevant here. Choose your next action wisely." Ralvek nodded, understanding the depth of her words. He realized that the Empire's usual tactics, fear, intimidation, or brute force, were useless. Humanity was not a species to dominate. They were a force that required respect and understanding. He turned to his officers, voice steady but resolute. "We will continue observation. No aggression, no interference. Humanity has shown its strength. Any action against them now would be catastrophic. The test is not over, but the lesson is clear. We are outmatched." The humans below gradually lowered their energy displays, allowing the city to settle back into its serene rhythm. Elian and her group returned to the core chamber, their movements calm, measured, as though the previous display had been a simple exercise. But the Empire's fleet had seen it all. They had witnessed humanity's true power, and the implications were impossible to ignore. Ralvek knew the High Council would not be pleased. They demanded conquest, obedience, and control. But here, before him, was proof that those demands were irrelevant. Humanity was not a species to bend, they were a species to respect, understand, and perhaps fear. As the sun rose higher, painting the city in warm light, Ralvek allowed himself a moment of reflection. This test of strength had been more than a demonstration. It was a warning, a revelation, and a challenge. Humanity had survived the impossible, and now, they were prepared to face the Empire. Elian stood at the center of the city, her eyes glowing faintly in the morning light. She knew the Empire had seen enough to understand the truth, even if they refused to admit it. Humanity had endured extinction, hidden in the shadows, and emerged stronger than ever. Their test had succeeded. The Empire now knew that humans were impossible to underestimate. Ralvek turned back to the bridge of his ship, his voice low but steady. Prepare a full report. Humanity is alive, advanced, and far beyond our understanding. The Empire's assumptions are shattered. We must proceed with caution, or risk losing everything. The test of strength had ended, but the story of humanity's return was only beginning. And the Empire would soon learn that survival was not the limit of their power, it was only the start. The stars shone over the human city like a witness to history. Commander Ralvek stood silently on the observation deck of the Imperial lead ship, staring at the scene below. Humanity was no longer a story, no longer a legend. They were real, powerful, and alive in ways the Empire had never imagined. Elian stood at the heart of the city, surrounded by her people. The morning light reflected off the structures that pulsed like living beings. The humans moved with purpose and calm, their presence commanding respect without a single weapon drawn. Ralvek's voice broke the silence. They've survived everything the galaxy threw at them, and more. Their power is impossible. Yes, Lieutenant Sarek whispered, awestruck. They are perfect survival. Elian turned her gaze toward the sky, her eyes meeting Ralvek's through the viewport. The Empire has seen the truth, she said. Humanity is no longer a species to be catalogued, conquered, or forgotten. We are a legacy, and we are alive. The impossible is real. Ralvek nodded slowly. He realized the enormity of the moment. For centuries, the Empire had assumed control. They had believed every species could be ruled or destroyed. They had believed humanity was extinct. And yet, here they were, alive, united, and more advanced than any species the Empire had ever encountered. Below, the humans demonstrated their mastery one final time. The city's energy pulsed, lifting structures with precise control. Rivers glowed with bioenergy, and forests shifted subtly, adapting to support the humans' movements. Machines moved with purpose, but unlike the Empire's warships, they existed in harmony with life itself. Ralvek's fleet remained silent, unable to comprehend the full scope of what they were witnessing. The humans were not violent, yet they were untouchable. They could have destroyed the fleet in moments, but instead, they chose to demonstrate, not dominate. Elian approached the central energy core. Her voice rang out, amplified across the city and through the comms to the Imperial fleet. We survived extinction. We learned from it. We adapted. Humanity is not defined by what it loses, but by what it becomes. The Empire must understand, the impossible is not just a story, it is our reality. The city responded to her words. Light surged in waves across the structures, energy arcs stretched into the sky, and the humans moved with synchronized precision, each gesture amplifying the power of the city. It was breathtaking, a display of strength, intelligence, and unity without a single act of violence. Ralvek's heart pounded. He knew then that this was the final lesson. The Empire had arrived expecting a weak, broken species. Instead, they had found something far greater, a species that had endured extinction, evolved, and reclaimed its place among the stars. Humanity was not merely surviving, they were shaping the future. The Imperial Admiral cleared his throat, voice trembling slightly. Commander, report. What do we do? Ralvek looked at the city below, alive and impossible. "We leave," he said. "We report the truth. Humanity is not extinct. Humanity is unstoppable. And we have no right to interfere." Sarek nodded. "And the Empire will believe it?" Ralvek shook his head. "They will have to. There is no other way." Elian's voice came through the comms one last time. "Commander Ralvek, you have seen our legacy. The galaxy may doubt it, fear it, or try to destroy it. But humanity will endure. The impossible is our inheritance. Remember that when you return to your empire." As the Imperial fleet turned away, leaving the city and its impossible inhabitants behind, Ralvek realized that everything had changed. Humanity had not only survived, they had proven their worth, their strength, and their ingenuity. The Empire would remember this day for centuries, though they could not fully understand it. Below, the city thrummed with life, energy, and quiet determination. Humans moved seamlessly, aware of their power yet restrained in its use. They had shown the galaxy that survival was not the limit. Adaptation, unity, and intelligence were the true measure of a species. Elian stood tall at the city's heart, her eyes glowing softly as she surveyed her people. Humanity's impossible legacy was secure. They had endured the darkness, hidden when necessary, and now returned stronger than ever. The Empire had witnessed it, and the universe would never again assume humanity was extinct. Ralvek watched one last time before leaving orbit. The impossible had become reality, and humanity had carved its place in the stars, not with war, but with resilience, intelligence, and unyielding spirit. The galaxy had underestimated them once. It would never make that mistake again. The humans below continued their lives, quietly shaping their world, preparing for whatever challenges the universe would send. Their story was no longer a myth, no longer a warning, but a proof of the impossible. And in that proof lay the enduring truth: humanity, against all odds, was alive, thriving, and unstoppable. The Empire had witnessed it. The galaxy had witnessed it. And humanity had only just begun.